You're in a room full of people, but you might as well be a ghost. Conversations flow around you, laughter erupts at tables nearby, and life seems to happen everywhere except where you're standing. You speak, but your words seem to dissolve into the air. You smile, but no one smiles back. You exist, but somehow you feel completely invisible. If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Feeling invisible is one of the most common yet least discussed human experiences. But here's what most people don't understand about invisibility. It's not just something that happens to you. It's often something your psyche created to protect you. Today, we're going to explore the hidden psychology of feeling invisible, why your mind might be choosing this protection, and how to transform this pattern from isolation into intentional connection. Let's start by naming what invisibility actually feels like. It's not just being ignored or overlooked. True psychological invisibility feels like existing in a parallel dimension where your thoughts, feelings, and presence don't seem to register in the world around you. You watch other people effortlessly connect, joke, and belong, while you feel like you're behind invisible glass, seeing everything but unable to truly participate. The wound of invisibility often begins early. Maybe you were the quiet child in a loud family, the sensitive one in a household that valued toughness, or the deep thinker in environments that rewarded quick responses. Perhaps you had big emotions that made adults uncomfortable, so you learned to make yourself smaller. Or maybe you were simply born with a naturally introspective temperament in a world that seems built for extroverts. Children are remarkably adaptive. When a child consistently feels that their authentic self isn't welcomed, celebrated, or even noticed, they make a survival decision: hide, not just their behavior, but their entire essence. They learn to become strategically invisible. Here's where this gets psychologically fascinating. Invisibility often starts as a brilliant protective strategy. If you can't be hurt if no one can find you, you can't be rejected if you never fully show up, you can't be criticized if you never take up space. Your young mind created a cloak of invisibility, and it worked. It kept you safe. But protection strategies that work in childhood often become prisons in adulthood. The invisibility that once shielded you now isolates you from the very connections you crave. You're so practiced at being unseen that you've forgotten how to be visible, even when you want to be. Let's look at how this pattern operates in daily life. You might find yourself in conversations where you have something meaningful to contribute, but by the time you work up the courage to speak, the moment has passed. You edit your thoughts so carefully that they lose their authenticity. You smile and nod while feeling completely disconnected from what's happening around you. In relationships, you might find yourself always being the listener, the supporter, the one who fades into the background. You know intimate details about your friends' lives, but they know surprisingly little about yours. You've become so good at being invisible that people literally forget you're there. At work or school, you might be competent, reliable, even excellent at what you do. But somehow, you're never the one who gets noticed for promotions, opportunities, or recognition. You watch less qualified, but more visible people advance, while you remain unseen. The cruel irony is that the more invisible you feel, the more invisible you become. Energy attracts energy, and when you're radiating "don't see me," people unconsciously comply. It's not malicious. Attention works. But here's what's important to understand. Feeling invisible isn't a character flaw or a permanent condition. It's a learned pattern, which means it can be unlearned and transformed. The first step is recognizing when your invisibility is serving you versus when it's limiting you. Sometimes being able to observe without being the center of attention is a gift. Sometimes not having to perform or maintain a social persona is exactly what you need. The problem isn't that you can be invisible. It's when invisibility becomes your only option. Psychology tells us that humans have a fundamental need to be seen and understood. When this need goes unmet for too long, we don't just feel lonely, we begin to question our own reality. If no one sees us, do we really exist? If our thoughts and feelings don't seem to matter to anyone else, do they matter at all? This is why learning to be selectively visible is so important. It's not about becoming someone else or forcing yourself into uncomfortable social performances. It's about reclaiming your right to exist fully in the world when you choose to.
Start small. Practice being visible in low-stakes situations. Share one genuine thought in a conversation instead of just agreeing. Wear something that reflects your actual taste instead of what helps you blend in.
Express a preference instead of always deferring to others. Notice what happens in your body when you consider being more visible. Does your chest tighten? Do you feel exposed or vulnerable? This is normal. Visibility feels dangerous because your protective system learned that being seen wasn't safe. Be patient with this process. Your invisibility didn't develop overnight, and it won't disappear overnight. But every small act of visibility is a step toward reclaiming your presence in the world. We'll see you, even when you're not trying to be seen. And the wrong people might overlook you, even when you're doing everything to be noticed. Your goal isn't to be visible to everyone. It's to be authentically visible to the people who matter. Sometimes feeling invisible is actually your intuition protecting you from environments or relationships where you genuinely aren't valued. In toxic families, competitive workplaces, or superficial social groups,
Invisibility might be wisdom.
the key is learning to distinguish between protective invisibility and limiting invisibility. Consider this. Maybe your sensitivity, your depth, your need for meaningful connection aren't weaknesses to hide. Maybe they're strengths that just need the right environment to flourish. Maybe you feel invisible because you're looking for real connection in places that only offer surface-level interaction. The journey from invisibility to authentic visibility isn't about becoming louder or more demanding. It's about honoring your own experience enough to let it exist in the world. It's about trusting that your thoughts have value, your feelings are valid, and your presence matters. You don't have to choose between being completely hidden or completely exposed. You can learn to be visible on your own terms, in your own way, when it serves you and the connections you want to build. Your invisibility protected you when you needed protection. Now it can become a superpower of choice. The ability to observe, to step back, to exist quietly when that serves you, and to step forward into full presence when that serves you too. The world needs what you have to offer, even if it's been hard to see that from behind your protective invisibility. You matter, your perspective matters, and you have every right to take up space in this world. If this resonated with you, comments. And if you're ready to explore more about understanding yourself and protecting your peace, there are more conversations waiting for you here on the channel. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.